kuyamangaza ngoba nanoma-ke sekebona ukuthi konke lokhu-ke zange kusahamba kahle kepha-ke okanye ngenkathi kuhlelo zange kube ngumuntu-ke ohlehlele emuva obonisa ukuthi-ke akasafuni ukuhambisana nakho lokhu ngakho-ke yena-ke lokho ukuthi ufuna ukuthi inkundla ikholwe ukuthi yena ubecabanga okanye ubekholwa-ke lokhu obetshelwe ngumnumzane uSibi efuna ukuthi inkundla ikwamukele cha inkundla iyagxeka kakhulu.
On Monday, that's the day before the accused took a stand and testified in mitigation of sentence. The accused recalled clearly the details of the incident that took place at the Ngwenya residence. During the sentencing procedure, he claimed that he was stressed whilst at the Ngwenya residence to the extent that he experienced sporadic blackouts and as a result could not remember some of the details.
Ube umuntu-ke ubekhumbula kahle konke kwenzeka lapha ngekhaya lekaNgwenya kusukela eqaleni kuze kube segcineni kepha-ke ngaleyo suku olulandelayo ngenkathi-ke inkundla isadinga udaba lokugwetshwa kwakhe okanye lapho bezitshelela khona kushwele yilapho-ke ebesesho khona ukuthi yena-ke ube ngumuntu-ke oye waba ngaphansi kwencindezi kanti-ke okanye stress kanti-ke yena-ke ezinye zezinto bezenzeka khona lapha-ke ekhaya lekaNgwenya akasayikhumbuli ngoba yena ubethunyelwa yibani.
But he admitted that when they finally found Kabisile, who is a person living with albinism, he there and then knew that his dream to have a flourishing business was about to be realized.
Ukuthi ithe emveni kokuthi-ke bamthole-ke bamfihle-ke na-ke uGabisile loyo-ke bekuyingane-ke ephila-ke ngebala elimhlophe yena-ke uye wabona ukuthi iphupho lakhe selizoba yimpumelelo lokuthi-ke ibhizinisi lakhe lithuthuke.
The behavior of the accused at all material times is indicative of lack of repentance. Genuine remorse must be distinguished from self-pity and unavoidable acknowledgement of guilt. Remorse is an indication that the accused has realized that a wrong was done and has, to that extent, been rehabilitated. Remorse is only a valid consideration at sentence if the penitent is sincere and the accused takes the court into his confidence. This is clearly stated in the case of State versus Machichi. It's a 2011 decision, Volume 1, South African Criminal Law Reports, page 40, which is a SCA decision.
Kuye kwabonisa ukuthi umuntu-ke onganayo uzwelo kanti-ke futhi-ke ukukhomba-ke ukuyisola kufanele ukuthi-ke kubonakale kungabe ukuyisola nje ngokomlomo kepha-ke kufanele ukuthi-ke ukubonakalise lokho-ke ukuthi nangempela-ke uyisola-ke ngokweqiniso njengoba-ke ukuyisola kukhombisa emveni kokuthi-ke wenze isenzo esithize wamukele iphutha lakho olenzile bakunjalo umuntu-ke ofaka ukuguquli kanti-ke lokho-ke kuye kwaqaqiswa ecaleni lombutho kanye nomakiti lonyaka ka-2011 volume 1 emarekhodini walana eMzansi South African Law Report kanti-ke kwikhasi number 40 okuyisinqumo saseSupreme Court of Appeal.
This case clearly demonstrates the plight of the people living with albinism. They are very vulnerable. In evidence, I heard how Msibi, the traditional healer, referred to them as things as though they are not human beings. The accused and his business partner, Funky Philemon Kumalo, on the advice of Msibi, went about in Pretoria looking for a person living with albinism. A search was further conducted in Groblersdal and Denelton. Eventually, the search was ended up in Witbank. Because Msibi already knew about the Ngwenya family, he had the details of the people living there, as well as the layout of the house. This goes to show how vulnerable the people living with albinism are. They are the target of unscrupulous people.
Futhi-ke lokho-ke kutobala uma ubuka-ke konke lokhu-ke yena-ke uMsidi ebekusho ngabo ababiza ngokuthi yizinto angabathathi njengabantu abanelungelo lokuthi nabo baphile. Kanti-ke emveni kokuthi-ke acebise yena-ke umangalelwa wesibili noFanki ukuthi-ke bahambe-ke bayomfunela-ke umuntu ophila ngebala elimhlophe. Bona-ke baye bahamba-ke basho ukuthi-ke lapha ngasePretoria zange bathole lutho. Kanti-ke bagcine-ke umkhankaso lona-ke uye waphuma-ke wagcina-ke usulapha-ke eGroblersdal naseDenelton wabe sewuphelela-ke lapha-ke eWitbank ngoba wena uMsibi lo bekesekanalo ulwazi oluphathelene nomndeni wakwaNgwenya nokuthi-ke abantu abangaki nokuthi-ke kuhlala abantu abanjani khona lapho kulela khaya. Ngakho-ke wabe uqophiwa okanye uqaphiwa yona umuzi lo nomndeni wakwaNgwenya.
These crimes were clearly pre-planned. The accused and Msibi and the others took a decision to travel to Witbank, to the house where they can find a person living with albinism. Msibi provided them, as I've already stated, with the layout of the house. They further knew that the people who were living in that house were the most vulnerable. It was an old lady, her daughter, and some children. And Gamede used an axe to break the windows to gain entry into the house. Eventually, the two children were kidnapped.
Lokho-ke kukodwa kukhomba-ke ukuthi-ke abantu abaphila ngebala elimhlophe kubantu-ke abanjani kanti-ke abangakhoni-ke ukuyivikela labo babhekwayo ngaso sonke isikhathi. Kanti-ke namacala nawo kumacala-ke ayahlelwa ngoba laba ababili bona-ke baye bahamba abantu bangisalelana-ke uMsibi umangalelwe wokuqala nowesibili owesibili nomnumzane uFanki bahamba baya lena kuMsibi. Lapho-ke uMsibi loyo-ke wabe sebetshela-ke lokhu-ke indlela yokwenza imali. Wabe seyabachazela-ke ukuthi-ke lela khaya lelo lapho-ke abathumela kilo lena-ke lapha ekhaya likaNgwenya ukuthi-ke kuyikhaya elimi kanjani nokuthi-ke kunabantu abangakhi abahlala lapho. Azi kahle kamhlophe ukuthi-ke abantu abahlala lapho kubantu-ke abangeke bakhone ukuyivikela okanye ukuyilwela. Kanti-ke njengoba-ke kuwumuntu-ke omdala, umama omdala ohlala namadodakazi wakhe kanye nezizukulu iy'ngane. Kanti-ke uGamede yena-ke wabe sesebenzisa-ke imbazo ukuphula-ke ifastela okanye amafastela lapho kulela khaya. Lapho-ke bakhona-ke ukungena-ke ngaphakathi lapho-ke baye bathumba khona-ke laba lezingane-ke ezinye.
When Gamede brought little welcome Nkosikhona Ngwenya into the car, it there and then became clear that little Nkosikhona was not needed for their sinister purpose. Notwithstanding that, they drove off with little Nkosikhona, intending to throw the little child into a sinkhole in the area as per the suggestion of Msibi. Defenseless as he was, 15 months old Nkosikhona was eventually dropped into a stream with the intention that he should drown and die.
Nanoma-ke uGamede seyilethile-ke ile ngane-ke encane-ke eneminyaka eyi-15 welcome kosikhona ngwenya emotweni. Nanoma ke sebebonile ukuthi ke lona kusuke lona ke ebebemfuna ukuze ke bakhole ukuphumelelisa ke icebo labo okanye lokho bebehlelile kwasecaleni naye uMsibi. Kanti ke nanoma kunjalo baye baqhubeka bahamba naye. Kanti ke uMsibi wathi makukhulwe ke isibhobozo lapho ke leyo ngane izolahlelwa khona. Kepha ke siye safunwa ngesibhobozo kepha ke zange basithole lapho ke adine ngokuthi masihambeni somlahlela lapha kusho yena uMsibi athi asihambeni somlahlela lapha emseleni la ukuze ke akwazi ukuqina. Bese
Gabisile was dragged from the house clad only in her panties. She resisted but eventually pushed into the car. Gabisile was eventually killed and her body was discovered in a shallow grave in Kalina. Some of her body parts were missing. Her head was missing. Her heart, liver, left arm and genitals were also missing.
Kanti ke uGabisile yena ke wabese yathunjwa ke ethathwa ke lapha ke ekhaya labazali bakhe ezobe ingubo okanye iphendi nje kuphela noma ke ibhulukwe ke leli labo mama lamathanzi. Kanti ke yena ke sebanqaba kepha ke nanoma kunjalo kuba uye washoviwa wafakwa ke phakathi kwemoto. Lapho ke kugcinwa khona ke ngokuthi ke abulawe. Wabe ke uyangqatshwa ke lapho ke kuye kwatholakala ukuthi ke lakhona umzimba wakhe awunazo izitho eziphelele, ezinye izitho ke zifikiwe njengekhanda, inhliziyo, isibindi kanti ke nesitho sangasese naso ke besingekho kulesifundiswa sakhe uGabisile.
These children suffered gruesome death at the hands of unscrupulous men who were blinded by greed and the love of money.
Kanti ke konke lokhu kwenziwa ke amadoda ke afe inhliziyo lawo enza isetho esihlasimulisa ke umzimba ngalolu hlobo labo ke bonke lokhu bebekwenza benziwa ke umqobo.
While it has been reported that people living with albinism face discrimination and stigma, they face more severe forms of violence. The attacks have several root causes, including ignorance, long-standing stigma, and the most disgusting is the harmful practices emanating from manifestation of beliefs. In some beliefs in witchcraft. The alarming reality is that these terrible practices continue today, and that's why we're having this matter today in court. Ukuthi ke abantu abaphila ngebala elimhlophe babhekene nokugqekwa lapho ke babizwa ngamagama kanti ke bese ke bahlaselwa ngendlela ezihlukile kanti ke ukulinyazwa okanye ukuphatha kabi kwabo labo bantu bebala elimhlophe sekuze kwaqhubeka wagcina ke kwenzeke lesi setho sokuthi ke kukhona abantu abahlose ukwenza ke okubi kibo njengokuthi ke babulawele lokhu bekholelwa kikho. I was dismayed to learn during the proceedings about the trauma experienced by the family beyond the kidnapping and killing of these children. The treatment the family has been subjected to by some members of the community is disturbing, to the extent that there are suggestions that the family stands to make that there would be a financial gain for the family. It's really unwarranted. Wonke lokhu lomndeni odluleliwe yikho
kanti-ke nalokuphuka ebesele banakho nokulimala emoyeni. Ngoba-ke futhi-ke nempatho-ke abaye bayithola-ke emphakathini. Loyo-ke umphakathi bowubagxeka-ke ngokuthi-ke bona bangabantu-ke bebethengisa-ke lezi ngane ukuze-ke bayitholele imali. Ngakho-ke lokho-ke kuyinto-ke ekhathazayo kakhulu. Ngoba-ke umphakathi awufanelanga ukuthi-ke ukwenze lokho okanye nabo abafanelanga ukuthi bathole-ke impatho enjalo evela emphakathini.
This clearly shows that there's a great need for educating all of us, South Africans, to dispel the myth surrounding albinism. The initiatives already in place, like the International Albinism Awareness Day of 13 June, are acknowledged and appreciated. Clearly, the initiatives need to be intensified. As a society, we need to seriously strive to create peaceful and safe living conditions for people living with albinism. In that breath, I would urge the leaders in the communities to be actively involved in these initiatives. In fact, the traditional healers must take a lead in condemning these evil practices amounting to attacks against the people living with albinism.
Anti-ke lokhu-ke kwenza ukuthi kube sobala ukuthi sidinga ukufundiswa thina-ke siwumphakathi phecelezi. Kanti-ke ngabo-ke abantu abaphila ngebala elimhlophe. Khona-ke kukhona imikhandlu seyicaliwe ekhuthaza futhi efundisa-ke imiphakathi ngabo labo bantu abaphila ngebala elimhlophe. Kanti-ke njengoba-ke kukhona usuku olubekiwe lelo-ke lomhlaba wonke jikelele lapho-ke eliphathelene nabo labo bantu abaphila ngebala elimhlophe elingumhla ka-13 June. Ngakho-ke umphakathi ngokuphelele lobubanzi kufanele ukuthi-ke ube nokuthula futhi-ke ufundiseke ekuphatheleleni nalokuthi-ke labo bantu labo bangabantu abasamukele. Futhi-ke mina ngikhuthaza-ke abaholi emiphakathini ukuthi-ke bengibo-ke abahola phambili le mikhandlo leyo-ke yokufundisa imiphakathi okuphathelene nabo bantu-ke abaphila ngebala elimhlophe. Futhi-ke ngikhuthaza-ke nazo izinyanga zesintu ukuthi kube yizo-ke ezihola phambili ukuze-ke zikwazi ukufundisa-ke imiphakathi ngokwamukeleka kwabo labo bantu abaphila ngebala elimhlophe.
People living with albinism have a right to be. Like all of us, people living with albinism deserve to have their rights to life and security protected.
Kanti-ke abantu abaphila ngebala elimhlophe nabo banelungelo lokuthi baphile. Nabo bafanele ukuthi-ke baphile njengabo bonke abanye abantu futhi-ke baphusele.
Under the circumstances of this case, I'm not satisfied that there are any substantial and compelling reasons to justify the deviation from the imposition of a lesser sentences than the prescribed sentences.
Kanti-ke uma uphathele nalecala nginake anganiseki ukuthi zikhona izizathu ezikhethekile neyiphoqa-ke le mfundawo ukuthi-ke iseseke kulesi gwebo-ke esilotshiwe ngokomthetho bese-ke inikeze ummangalelwa isigwebo esingaphansi kunalesi esilotshiwe ngokomthetho.
Mr. THUBANE, may you please rise? In the result, I sentence you as follows. On count 1, which is housebreaking, is 5 years imprisonment. On count 2 and count 3, which deals with the contravention of Section 126B, read with Sections 1 and 103 and 121A of Act 60 of 2000, I each sentence you to 3 years, which will be 3 years for count 2 and 3 years for count 3. Count 4 and count 5, which deals with count 4 and 5 kidnapping, each 5 years. So count 4 will be 5 years and count 5, 5 years. Count 6 and 7 relating to murder, I each sentence you to life imprisonment. Count 6, it will be life imprisonment, and count 7, life imprisonment. The sentence imposed in respect of counts 2 and 3 are ordered to run concurrently with the one imposed in respect of count 1, and the sentence imposed in respect of count 4 is ordered to run concurrently with the one imposed in respect of count 7, and the sentence imposed in respect of count 5 is ordered to run concurrently with the one imposed in respect of count 6. You are effectively sentenced to 2 life imprisonments and a further 5 years. Thank you. The court will adjourn.